But in this area, we just don't negotiate. There's no way that we live and let live, because these are the words of Christ himself about himself, and we must accept it as true. And I believe that we can gently, if the people will talk to us, discuss with them ways of looking at life as it exists in our world, where things are right or wrong, where there is no area that's gray. And we can point out to them that the world that God has put us in operates on the principle of exclusivity. For example, someone goes to the doctor and has a biopsy, and the report comes back from the pathologist that it's cancer, and the GP says to his patient, the pathologist report says that that growth is cancer. The patient has the ability to say, well, you can believe that, but I don't. They have the ability to do that. But common sense tells everybody that that's not the way you should approach the issue. Now that the pathologist has determined what those cells are, there's only one way to respond. Remove those cells. Get rid of that. You go to the bank and you give the teller $500 in cash. There's already $500 in your account. If the teller comes back and passes you your book back and it says the new balance is $800, you're going to engage the teller in discussion. Now, the teller can say to you, well, I'd like to believe that $500 and $500 equals $800. Well, the teller may believe that if they want. But anybody in their right mind is going to insist that 500 and 500 equals 1,000. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing it on the back of the moon, on Mars. Don't recommend going there because it's not habitable, but it doesn't matter where in the universe you add up 500 and 500, you're coming out with 1,000. That's just the way the world has been made. And so maybe in our witness, when we realize that we are on thin ice with the person we're talking to about the exclusivity of Christ, we can back down a notch and just say, has it occurred to you the way the world around us works in so many ways? And you talk about mathematics, you can talk about physics. I hope you remember your physics from high school. That was my best subject. Anyhow, you can say to the person, you know, if the Pope walks off the edge of a cliff at the same time as the town drunk does, both of them will start accelerating downward at a mathematically predetermined rate until something intervenes and stops their descent. Now, it doesn't matter if the Pope thought that he was going to put and he missed and he went off the cliff. It doesn't matter if he thought it was solid ground. A certain result is going to occur. Same with the drunk. It doesn't matter who you are. If you go off the edge of the cliff, you're on your way down. That's the way the world is built in the area of physics. And if you take several areas where everybody recognizes that this is right and that has to be wrong, and point that out to them, you can then talk to them about whether they think it's reasonable that God, who is consistent, the Creator God who's consistent in all these other ways, would not be consistent in the guidelines, the rules, the mechanism, the way by which we come to Him. There is a logic there. But we know we have a problem still. Anybody heard of Enrico Fermi? Okay. It doesn't matter. You can live without knowing, but you're going to find out, so You're going to live with it. Enrico Fermi was born in 1901, died in 1954. He worked with Albert Einstein on the Manhattan Project, developing the atomic bomb for the Americans in the war effort, because Einstein thought that the Germans were creating an atomic bomb, and so he wrote to the President of the United States and said, we got to get going here, or the Germans are going to blow us up. So Enrico Fermi was a totally brilliant, original thinking physicist, and he was in the same league as Albert Einstein. In 1950, he stated to the scientific community a problem that he saw in the world in which we live. It's called Fermi's paradox. What he was saying was, because there's so many hundreds of millions of stars in our galaxy, and there's so many billions of galaxies out there, there's got to be life out there somewhere. There's got to be intelligent life. The odds are, mathematically speaking, that there should be life on some of those planets circling some of those suns out there. But he said, we haven't heard from any of them. So this is a conundrum to him. Why haven't we heard if it's so reasonable that there are worlds out there? And it's called Fermi's paradox, because the two things don't seem to make sense to the scientific community. Enrico Fermi says, where are you? Nobody answers. He figures somebody should. And of course, in the States, there's a thing called SETI, S-E-T-I. It's a search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and they're sending out radio signals in a mathematical formula that would be recognized by any kind of intelligence from Earth to let them know that we're here, we think, we reason, and hello, good morning, or how are you today? So they're trying to hear from somebody out there. You know, the Bible doesn't say there aren't other creatures out there. We've already proven there's been microscopic life, microbes on Mars, for example, because some pieces of Mars have landed on Earth, and they've looked under microscopes at them, and they've seen that there's very simple forms of life that have existed on Mars. But the Bible just doesn't tell us that there is or there is not life out there. The Bible just focuses on our Earth and tells us about it and leaves us to guess about the rest if we want to know. And I don't think we will know, because it says in Deuteronomy 29:29, the secret things belong to the Lord our God. The things that are revealed are for us and for our children. And we know for sure that Earth is the platform for God's redemptive work for the entire universe. And we may try to deduce from that that there ain't no life out there of any complex sort. If you want to, I don't want to go there. I don't want to argue with you about it. I think probably we are it, because of a book I've got called Rare Earth, where an astrobiologist and I forget the other PhD that works on it. The book is Rare Earth, and it talks about the incredible number of things that have to be in extreme balance before complex life can live and grow and expand. And the more we investigate and study, the more we realize the uniqueness of this planet that we are on. That if there are any others out there, they are very rare indeed. But you see, Enrico Fermi did not have a regenerated mind. He could, in his head, figure out how to split the atom. He could think in a very straight, linear fashion. He was an extraordinarily intelligent man. But the Bible says, when it comes to the area of spiritual reality, we start out dead. Or, if you will put it another way, if a different analogy, our minds are deformed when we come to the place of trying to analyze spiritual truth, and we can't figure it out.